Let me fix that still. And we're on. Hi, it's Coach MK, and I'm a little nervous about this because these conversations never go well, but I was tasked with having a conversation about weight loss. And this is that time of year when that question's going to come up a lot because we feel guilty about what we did during the holidays, and we want to negate that, plus every other thing that we've done in 2018. And I think I have a lot to say about it, but I'm going to try to keep this as concise and kind and gentle as possible. Because I totally get that it's a delicate situation and it's a very difficult conversation. And it's hard. It is, let me start there. It is hard. As someone that has had 4 babies, and as I've gone into every single pregnancy, I've said I'm going to do it differently this time. And I have, but I just have not gotten a different result. I gained no less than 50 pounds with each pregnancy. With each pregnancy came challenges I hadn't foreseen that impeded my ability not only to work the way I wanted to work, but also to eat the way I would want to eat. So that's one of the reasons why I kind of dance around this, because it's difficult. Being a coach, the most important part of the job, in my opinion, is respecting the trust that you guys place in me to lead you in the right direction. So not only do I have to lead you in the right direction, I have to give you the most effective cues possible that will get you where you want to go. And that's a really hard thing to do. And again, I say this kindly, and I say this lovingly, because it's a very American thing. I would think of it as sort of a hierarchy of intellectual pursuit, where a doctor, for example, or a neurosurgeon is probably at the top of the heap. Like we just, because I mean, you can't be stupid and become a neurosurgeon unless, well, I don't know, Dr. Dunch, that whole, did any of you listen to Dr. Death? I'm still freaking out about that. But so generally speaking, though, you need to be a marginally competent human to just not only get into medical school because it's so competitive, but also to get the grades required, to get the fellowships, to get the placements. I mean, there's so many things have to fall into place for you to get to the top of that heap, that we sort of assume that, and this is how we talk about it, it's not rocket science. So if it isn't rocket science, it's de facto easy. And that's the wrong way to look at it. And when it comes to weight loss, we tend to put that in the same category. It's not rocket science, it's de facto easy. So, and I haven't been able to do it and keep it yet. So there's something wrong with me. I must be stupid, but I don't want to ask because then people are going to think I'm stupid, and I'm really ashamed because I'm asking for help for something that's really, really easy. And I reject that entire cycle of thought, that entire body of inaction that leads us to a complete inert state and effectively renders us helpless, right? It's easier to say genetics and walk away, even though that's not what genetics does, and that's not how it works. Yeah, maybe, I mean, genetics determines whether you have light skin or dark, how long you can be in the sun before you're toast. I can be out there for one period of time, my husband, much shorter period of time. And my kids is totally different. I think you're beautiful even when the top of your head is totally red.
It's easier. It's harder when I don't have hair.
I know, but it's so sexy because you got the beard. Yeah. So, but again, I say this lovingly because it is tricky. That genetics determines like how much and what type of result you're going to get for a period of time. At the same time, like for example, like the smallest waist I might ever have, no matter what I do, is probably something close to 25 inches because genetics. At the same time, is that a goal? No, and that's aggressive and a little bit ridiculous. That's arbitrary. I just pulled that number out of the air. Because I know what size I was when I got pregnant the first time, because I had just had my wedding dress made, and I had the measurements on the fridge that I kept meaning to take to the designer and never did because my brain just didn't work that way a long time ago. Anyway, this person refused to work with email, and who doesn't work with email in 2012? I digress. The whole issue here, what it really kind of comes down to is the way we talk about it, and that it's easy and it doesn't require much, and if you haven't done it yet, that there's something wrong with you. As a coach, and I have a lot of opinions on that just based on my family history. It's easier to throw your hands in the air and say genetics, whatever, and walk away from it, and then it is to say there are things I can do, and I don't really want to do them, and that's okay. There's a whole fat acceptance movement that I became really familiar with last year that I'm fascinated by, and I alternate between. I'd never really crossed my mind before that it was possible to be both fat and healthy, because it's always been presented as for such a long time that the opposite is true. So I say I couch, before I go any further, I want to couch all of this in your motivation. Okay, because the way we talk about it is shaming and wrong. Anyone can do it if you just do the work, and then we don't talk about what the work is. And we just sort of leave that hanging in the air as though you're lazy. And the laziness is not on the end of the people that are trying to lose weight. It's on the side of the experts that just sort of say, just eat less and exercise more, whatever, and walk away without stopping to think about how bad of a cue that actually is. As a coach, that horrifies me, because that cue has led to scores of eating disorders that we still don't talk about because we blame the victim, right? Like, why? I mean, vomiting before a match, like, clearly that's a bad idea. Why would you do that? Well, because that's what a lot of the successful people did, because we put the focus on the weight and all of the focus on the weight, that we don't think about nutrition or the whole body or how the whole body works. And I'm very, very hopeful that this conversation will change my lifetime. But right now, this is where we're at. So, start there. Why do you want to lose weight? If you're doing this for you, if you're trying to, shut your doctor up so you get a little bit better health care. If I lose 10 pounds, will he finally hear me when I say that I'm in pain? That's one thing. If you're doing it because if I lose 10 pounds, maybe my husband will look at me the way he used to. That's another thing. If I lose 10 pounds, I will finally feel confident enough to reclaim my place in the office because I'm going to fit into this part of my wardrobe again. All three are valid. I'm not here to tell you that the way you feel is wrong. My job as your coach is to help you identify and take that next best step, which is why the answer to every single question starts with, it depends. And I know that's frustrating to hear because it would be easy for me to do what everybody else does and says, oh, it's so easy. All you do is this. Here's the formula, and then shut it down and not take a lot of questions. But I'm not about that. I'm not here to do that. So, number one, I don't think anyone needs to lose weight. Let's start on that basis. Any goal that you have, I am probably not going to come back with, well, this is more likely to happen if you lose weight. I have never said that to anybody, and I don't intend to start. We're gonna couch this conversation. We're gonna operate on the assumption and the basis that The reasons that you want to lose weight are rational and healthy, and your motivations are too. And this is something you genuinely want to do, as opposed to you're afraid of what will happen or what will continue to happen if you don't. These are very different conversations, and that's important. Fear-based anything doesn't work. It's one of the reasons why I get so angry this time of year when we talk about New Year's resolutions. We think about if I don't do this, then, if I don't do this, then, and we talk about doing the work and setting intentions, and there's something about all of it that's kind of ugly, because you can have the best intentions in the world, but if you don't have enough help at home, your attempts to go running are going to be thwarted. If you don't have total support from your partner, who also has a checkbook and can Instacart just as easily as you can, your attempts to only have healthy things in the house might totally fall to the wayside. And by the way, if you're still looking at the world and thinking in terms of good foods and bad foods, that's part of the problem too. I only have good foods in the house. Like, that's not enough. It's kind of like when we talk about consent. Consent isn't enough. If you treat it like a hurdle to get over, you're not going to have better outcomes anywhere. It should be part of the conversation, but it doesn't stop there. If you poke somebody with the stick until they say yes, it doesn't mean they really want to go along with it. You've got to take the power dynamics into consideration, right? Yes doesn't always mean yes. Sometimes it means like, okay. And it's not the same. So you'll see where I'm going with this and why that is actually completely on topic in just a minute. So weight loss. On the surface, this talk tonight was spawned from a very simple question. Hey, Coach MK, you gave us the monthly plan for the month of December, and you said that eventually we were going to talk through it with the bend for weight loss. And I wrote down on my whiteboard an idea or a pattern that would look good, and that would, if you're running specifically to lose weight, this is what you need to think about. And I walked away from that really nervous because I knew that what I was saying was incomplete, but I was still unsure that the people who asked the question were truly ready to have a robust conversation about it, because it is complicated and it is really loaded. So weight loss is a factor of several things. Number one, metabolic change. That's a Greek symbol delta. And again, this is ubiquitous and loaded as well. How do we bring about metabolic change? When I'm training people for endurance events, specifically half full marathons, because no one ever hires a coach to train for a 5K or a 10K. They just don't. Everyone thinks they can do that on their own, and that's fine. I accept that. So where it's seen as too small and not worth it, like, because it's how the thinking goes, right? It's a 10K that's like an hour. The entry fee was only $45. I mean, a marathon, that's a big deal. I need a coach for a marathon. I don't know. I know how to run a 10K, and that's so not true. That side. So the metabolic change, we need to, if you really want to lose weight, I assume that what we're talking about there, what we're really getting at, is your lower your body fat percentage. Okay? That's really what we mean. It's not, because we can do a whole lot of things. I could tell you to go sit in the sauna for an hour a day. You'd lose weight there. You would lose your appetite. You would probably kill your kidneys. You would totally dehydrate, but you'd lose weight. But that's not really not what we want to do. Weight loss is this we need a new phrase for it. And it needs to be something positive, because who wants to talk about loss? What I want for everyone is more of a gain. I want you to gain confidence. I want you to gain competence. And I've seen that come along with weight loss. I've seen that come along with achieving things like completing a marathon. The problem is this. You lose all this weight, you get back into your clothes, you feel really confident, you feel really good, and then something happens and you mom like a boss, you adult like a boss. You put a few more pounds on and your confidence was tied to something that was fleeting. And that's not, it shouldn't be that way. right? And then that's the incentive to make bad choices to get back to your happy place, because that happy place had to do with the number on a scale instead of like a look at the bigger picture. Same thing with the marathon. I'm a marathoner, and now I'm injured, and I can't do anything, and I'm gaining weight, and now what am I? And who I am, my self-identity, and my sense of purpose and my self-esteem were all anchored to this one thing I can't do. And now that I can't do it, I'm losing weight. Who am I? And I went through that process last year, being watched by a community of 100,000 while I basically went on non-bed rest. And if you've listened to the podcast, you know how contentious that word choice was, and how many times I had to defend it. Like, I was not on doctor-mandated bed rest until week 32 when I started bleeding. But before that, I was just in too much pain to move. And I couldn't sit up straight. I remember when I recorded the podcast, the goal-setting webinars for the year ahead last year. Remember, I was sitting on the floor with my back against the couch, kind of like hanging over Dimity's shoulder, staring at the screen. I was in that much pain that I couldn't function. We recorded podcasts in my bed because I couldn't get out of it. At the same time, that's not bed rest. That's not medical. That was seen as my choice. And I have a lot to say about that too, but that's kind of beside the point. When we're talking, that was really humbling and difficult to go through with people watching me. And I guarantee wherever you are right now, there are way fewer people watching you than you think. People are watching my journey thinking, well, if she can't handle a baby, then what's she going to do for me? If she can't get back to running right after baby, then how the F is she going to... If I don't live up to whatever arbitrary expectations someone has set when they start talking to me, then I have failed. And if I failed, then I must be bad at this super totally easy job that anyone can do, because you know what? It's not rocket science. And it's just this... It gets harder and harder and harder to win if you're being approached from that framework, and I usually am. So on one hand, I get it, or who's going to trust a fat run coach? I say it shouldn't be about what they look like. Fat people could be competent in all kinds of things. That's a horrible way to look at the world. But if you're coming at it from a period of insecurity, and the person that you're trusting your body with doesn't look the way you want to look, it can be tough. And I had to deal with that all last year. So just a reminder, it's easy to be embarrassed and think everyone's watching you. Chances are pretty good they're not. I've been there. Let me tell you what they do when they're watching. They make you prove to them that you're still good at your job, that you're still the same coach you were last year, even though you're not running, can't get out of bed, or in a lot of pain, and your bed rest isn't the same as my bed rest. So, I've lost all but 7.5 pounds that I gained during that last pregnancy. And this is going to be made into a graphic, by the way, this next to me. This is going to be made into a graphic that I'm going to use in the goal setting session on my Coach MK Facebook page on Friday. We're really going to take stock. It's easy to think about like where you were at the beginning of the year, but chances are pretty good you made that up, because time flies and it all kind of bleeds together really quickly. And sometimes I even forget that, hey, I was in bed. I went back and checked my notes. I was the last good run I had was the second week of June last year. And then I didn't run again until nearly August of this year. That's a long time. I couldn't do much other than Pilates, but that's the story I'll talk about on Friday. I lost all kinds. After 3 days, muscles break down. I was in bed for a year. Okay. So wherever you are right now, you probably have not been in bed for a year, which means you're better off than you think you are. You are by no means behind, and you're certainly not as behind as you're afraid that you are. Okay? So, whatever we're going to do, this is possible. Change is possible. If we're going to lower your body fat percentage, we have to do one of two things. We got to reduce the fat on your body. And we got to gain muscle. And it's not an either or scenario. You've really got to do both. Because the more muscle you gain, the more rapidly you will burn through your fat stores. Okay? Running isn't enough, and this is where it gets complicated because no one wants to hear it. Everybody's like, well, I know this person, and she's super skinny, and she's a marathon runner, so I want to run a marathon, so I'll be super skinny like her. Chances are, again, that's flawed logic, because if you, the distance between you, the difference between you and that runner you think you want to be, it's more than just the marathon itself. It's to get to where that person is, you might have to do more than just run, right? Like, if I do what she does, I will look the way she looks, and it's like, but you might need to do all these other things too. So whatever story you've kind of told yourself, we need to let go of that as much as possible and think about meeting your body where it's at and doing whatever it is that you need to do. So these two components right here of dropping fat and increasing muscle, that is step one of the metabolic change that I'm talking about. Step two.
She's up here.
The second step or the second consideration is a hormonal one. And because it's really hard to standardize these tests in a laboratory setting, we prefer not to talk about it. Are you wearing pants? Why are you wearing that?
I really need
Okay.
to tell you something.
Tell me something, please.
Can we go to the baby Jesus set? Can Grandmama get it?
Yes, you can get the baby Jesus set. I forgot.
You forgot.
I did, I totally forgot.
Every day
I'm sorry.
I ask you.
I know. I'm a bad mom. I forget about the baby Jesus.
She said,
Yes, but ask Daddy to get it because it's pretty tall and I don't think our mama wants to stand on the step.
where is Daddy?
He's probably over here.
Dad, we really need to...
Sorry if that interruption. It's my family.
Yay, baby Jesus set!
Okay.
Little late, but
So the second part is insulin resistance. So most of the fad diets that have been coming up for the past few years have been centered around sugar, like 30-day sugar busters, total sugar elimination, Whole30. You hear of other things like paleo. And it's not that I have a problem with any of those, it's just that those are very drastic changes. The one, if I had to go like Google a fad diet and say, do this and you should be okay, it would be the glycemic index. The one thing, when we talk about insulin resistance, that came from holistic with the W type of wellness professionals that are very experienced, but because we couldn't standardize the trials in a clinical setting to totally replicate and then eliminate insulin resistance, we say it hasn't been proven. And again, it's a race to the bottom of the barrel. It hasn't been proven, therefore it's bunk science. And it's not really, because we do have a whole birth of studies on something very similar that never really caught fire, and it's the glycemic index. So if you've heard me talk about in the Another Mother Runner podcast or the Train Like a Mother podcast in the past, I've talked about how you want to have steady blood sugar all day long. That's the glycemic index. When Ellie talks about you don't need to have carbohydrates and certain simple sugars first thing in the morning because you'll have a cortisol rise and then a crash, and the idea of a sugar crash isn't really accurate to describe what's going on, but that energy drop that happens, that's coinciding actually with the cortisol drop, and you're keeping your cortisol up abnormally high by having things like cereal for breakfast, okay? Which, if you know anyone with diabetes, they don't do that. Type 1 diabetes, they're not allowed to. So I'm not saying you need to go eat like a diabetic, but the diabetic way of life and diet is based on stable blood sugar, and that is where the glycemic index comes from, okay? Now, again, I say this lovingly, the glycemic index is super complicated. It's a lot to think about, it's a lot of math, and it's very laborious. I don't know that adopting it is going to be something, the change that you want to make in 2019 if you're looking to make a change. Right. I brought Ellie to you guys because she's the best. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, or you just kind of stumbled into this stream because weight loss, okay, go find a functional nutritionist. They have a way of simplifying these super complicated concepts and distilling them into step-by-step changes that you can adopt that don't require a lot of thought and are easy to turn into habits, okay? So there's that. So don't, if you Google insulin resistance, we can talk about it, but you're going to find as many things being like, that is bollocks. Bollocks is the notion that vaccines cause autism. As mother of an autistic son, I get up in arms about that. If you don't want to vaccinate your kids, that's fine, but don't pretend you saved them from autism because the two are not linked. It's different when we talk about this because we know that insulin has a link. The reason it hasn't worked in a clinical setting is because we have trouble standardizing it in a clinical setting because people, even though we're human snowflakes and we all aren't that different, the level of replication required for something to become the medical standard, it's really hard to do with hormones. So, and hormones are driven by insulin to a certain degree. So there's that. So we need metabolic change. We need to address that blood sugar because this facilitates metabolic change, right? It supports it. And the third piece is really routine. Without overthinking it, without overcomplicating it, we need to have routine. I've run first thing in the morning most of my life, and I've done so on an empty stomach. Not saying it's better, it's just what I've done. And that's what everybody did back then. There was no other time of the day when I could do it safely. And then when I became a mom, there was no other time of the day where I could get help. It's really hard to get a sitter at 9 in the morning. So, I have not been running lately for that exact reason. I'm not just out of the habit, I'm eager to go. But it's 25 degrees in the morning in Denver. And everything is easy when you're fit, and I'm not fit, man. I'm toned, I'm not fit. I'm certainly not fit for running or endurance training because I've got all this muscle I still need to build after a year in bed. So running at 6:30 and 25 degrees, going really slowly, it's super unpleasant, and I don't like it. And I don't want to hate running. So there are lots of days I opt out of it. This morning, Shiloh crawled in bed with me and snuggled, and I'm like, I'm fucked, I'm moving. Today is going to be another day that I don't run, and that's okay. When it's warmer, I'll get back into the habit, and then everything will be fine, and next winter is going to be a different story, but this is where I'm at right now. For the next few weeks, I'm going to continue to not beat myself up and choose snuggles over doing something I love in a way that will only be unpleasant and make me feel bad about being unfit, even though I have adulted and mommed like a boss for the past 18 months. Okay, so that routine is important. And here's what I mean by this, to be more specific. I mean the run pattern. This is why all of my programs follow the same pattern with Thursday, Sunday off. And as you climb the ladder of fitness and get to the point where you want to do more, the first thing we drop is every other Thursday. Then we drop Thursday completely as a rest day. It becomes a work day. Then we drop every other Sunday. Then we drop every Sunday. And then we move. Once we've gone to 7 days a week, that's when I like to go to 2-a-days. And I like to work. It takes a long time to work up there. Going to 2-a-days right away isn't ideal. Especially if that second workout of the day is expected to be a run. We need to have a really good reason for it. Because there are so many other things so if you think of them as levers, there are other levers we can pull first. Why would you pull that one? So that run pattern matters because, again, when in times of illness or injury or coming off a year, 18 months in bed, like I've had, we want to try to keep that pattern as much as possible because it makes it easier to keep. And maybe that pattern is getting up at 5:45. Even if you can't get out of bed and do the run the way you want to, I got up at the same time. I never changed my alarm, and I never turned off my alarm. I got up and I did the same thing. Even on the days I couldn't get out of bed without assistance, I got up at the same time every single day, and I never let that alarm go. That silly little toggle in my phone was almost like a lifeline because it meant that at some point I will be, because my phone says get up and run now. And as long as that toggle is on, there's a possibility that I will do it. So mentally, psychologically, I wasn't ready to turn that off, even on the days when I probably could have slept in, because I wanted to keep that pattern. And it's the pattern not just of runs, which is why it can be dangerous to switch back and forth between, well, not dangerous, but it can be detrimental to your habit to switch back and forth between coaches that have different days of the week. Like the standard Higdon plans have you taking Friday and Sunday off, and I don't like that at all because that leads to a lot of bad choices, or at least I've seen that leading to bad choices. So and not to say he's wrong, it's just, it's my athletes, the athletes with whom I've worked have needed a different cue than that. The cue that gets us to the result we want is Thursday, Sunday off, and that's where we start. So we keep that pattern throughout the year no matter what. We increase it, but it's not like there's no plan I have where you get Tuesday off. There is no plan I write where you get Monday off. We might shift things a day. So if Julie's watching right now, her pattern, because she's doing so much running, she actually's like, I get Mondays off, but I have her running Friday, Saturday. I write the plan one way, and then I shift everything forward one day. So there's that. It'll probably be a relief. I'm assuming, not to tell you Julie's life. It'll probably be a relief for Julie when she gets one weekend day off back in her life again, because it's been so long since she had one. So we want to keep that pattern year round, regardless, and we need to have a defined plan B. You've seen, I did a stream about this a long time ago, meaning like a month ago. It was a day where the baby hadn't been sleeping, she was teething, and I was up, and I was like bleary-eyed, and I'm like, guys, I'm so tired, I can't, and I haven't eaten. So we're going to talk about my plan C meal, which I will be eating for the second time today. So plan B, plan A is like something that isn't disgusting and kind of like meets the criteria. Something that maybe you're not excited to eat, but like you're not worried about it. Plan B is, wow, it's either, there's nothing in my house other than chicken nuggets. And I can't even look at chicken nuggets, right? Plan B is that meal of the 2 hard-boiled eggs, the salad scissors, and 2 fistfuls of spinach with a little bit of olive oil. And I have that on hand at all times. That is my plan B meal. And if worst comes to worst, I can have it prepared in under 2 minutes and have a meal ready to go. Plan C is if, you know, again, when I was pregnant, I was sick a whole lot, and I had to drink a lot of my meals. Again, not optimal. It's definitely not what you want to do if you're trying to lose weight. Because again, if you're not consuming enough protein and you're not eating solid foods, then you're losing muscle. And that's why I'm at where I'm at right now. I lost a lot of muscle over a year in bed, you know, drinking, not even like protein shakes, drinking just liquid. So your plan B, I'm talking about you have a plan B meal. So you are never caught scrounging for food and then beating yourself up for ordering in or grabbing what's there because it's 8 o'clock and you're hungry and you don't want to wait an hour for delivery. So having a plan B meal on hand at all times, and a plan B workout plan. And here's what I mean by that. That's like, 20 minutes is better than nothing. I'm going to do the 20 minutes. You know what, I slept in a little bit this morning, so I'm going to do 20 minutes right now, and then I'm going to do 4 sets of loops at the end of the day. We can do that. So whatever your plan B is, you have to have it identified before you get into that moment where I have no food, it's really late, I slept in, I only have this much time. You need to have that plan B ready to go. So it's like, oh, I slept in, okay, I'm going to do this. And you know what to do, and there's no panic and no worry. And that inertia, that deer in headlights, it happens in your brain because what do I do? And you get really mad at yourself. And then you don't think clearly because you're so busy being anxious and mad at yourself. We eliminate that by having a solid plan B for the 2 things that impact weight loss and body fat percentage the most. 1 is a meal, having a healthy meal at all times, and 2 is the workout plan. And then the third, and this is tertiary, is, I call it the support, right? So that's like you get to the gym and you don't have a run bra, or you get to work and you realize that you forgot your workout shorts in your gym bag. So that can throw, that's, maybe you can run in your regular bra, I don't know, I've got, obviously, it's not a problem for me. But not having the shorts is the thing that's happened before. So, that I offset that by having the bag in my car, which I've shown you guys before. I have a complete set of winter run clothes, a complete set of summer run clothes. I have chargers, backup chargers for every electronic device that I carry or rely on. So I have one, this level of preparation takes money, I'm not going to lie. There's no free way to do it because you're always going to forget something. You need to identify what those failure points are and mitigate them by having thought through, because, in plan B, the meal, I can't obviously carry around hard-boiled eggs and spinach all the time, but I can have those RX bars, protein bars. They're in my car. They're in most of my purses. They're in my backup purses because they stay well for a long time. And so sometimes when I do a purse dump and I change purses, I always make sure that if I pick it up and I haven't really had time to go through it, I have one in a zipper bag in my car. I have one in my gym bag. I have if you were to come here and like dig through my house, I've got RX bars stashed all over the place in case of an emergency where I'm going somewhere and I need my blood sugar to not crash or at least just stay stable-ish. That's easiest to do with protein. And that's the sort of support I'm talking about. So having backups of everything at your disposal at all times and not worrying about what it costs. This is why Black Friday, I wait for the sales and I'm like, all right, I need a new pair of liners, of wool liners for my gloves because I went out somewhere and I didn't have them. I need an extra set of big fat mittens, and I probably have too many mittens, but I have mittens everywhere I have needed them and not been able to get them in the past year. So there's that. Having the stash, having the plan, having the backup plan, and having the support continually is the best way to make sure that none of your efforts are thwarted, right? So this is a big deal. This is a lot to think about, and that's why I say it's hard. It's not that basic, and it's not that simple. It's hard to think about all the things that could go wrong. I used to work in reinsurance. That was literally my job, to price out, to imagine, and then price out the worst case scenarios for every single thing that could happen in any event that I was underwriting. So, yeah, that's the way my brain is trained to work, and that's the one good thing about working in reinsurance. That, and I had a job graduating in 2009. A lot of my classmates didn't come out of Wharton. So with all of this in perspective, there's no one piece that works without the other. It's more like a jigsaw puzzle. So I'm going to take a picture of this, as I know somebody's going to ask me to post it in the Facebook group. And poor Susan's had to go like drag things out from all over the place, and I'm like, where did I put this, Susan? And she's like, I'm not actually the Google. She's been very nice about it. She's not said that to me yet, but I'm sure it's coming. Susan, where did I put this? I don't fucking know, MK. Okay. Running for weight loss. If Ellie were to reach out to me and say, hey, I'm working with, and this is the way we work together, we sync together pretty seamlessly, we always have. We were working together for years before I introduced her to AMR. When she comes to me and says, I've got this weight loss client, I need you to monitor her workouts. What Ellie's saying to me is, I need you to make sure she's not working out, she's not overdoing it, because if she overdoes it, the cortisol goes through the roof and then the whole dietary thing falls apart. Susan does know everything. She's amazing. I love Susan. No fighting decision fatigue because you've already made those choices in advance. Correct. Correct. Yes. And there's no decision fatigue in my world. I'm a robot. I'm a total robot. Love RX bars. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I love RX bars, but they work, and I don't hate them. I like the maple and I like the sea salt. Chocolate peanut butter is not terrible. I can stomach it. Epic bars, I can't make that leap. My husband loves that shit. I'm like, ugh, no. You had to run in my bra this week. It wasn't fun. Ooh. Yeah, I have two bags. I have the one bag that lives in my car, and I have the bag that roams with me. So if you're ever in my car, my husband has learned not to say anything about this, or at least we haven't had this conversation in a while, and I appreciate it. Because it's like, do you really need this many spares? Like, yes. This is all born from necessity, not just because I like to travel heavy. I have more stuff in my car to run at the drop of a hat than I will carry with me for a weekend trip. I can pack for a weekend trip in like a teeny tiny backpack. I have like luggage in my car. Backup run shoes. Oh, it's too cold. I need the warm run shoes that'll fit a thing in the toe, the foot warmer in the toe. You know, I'm like, I've got 4 pairs of run shoes because you just don't know what's going to happen. If you get out there and you're ready to go and your feet are cold, you're fucked. You can't have that. And that can happen in Colorado. Yay, that's awesome with getting breakfast. I've never prepped a breakfast. I just keep things ready to go and chop. Same breakfast I have every day for 10 years. I appreciate you sharing your perspectives, reframing. Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. I appreciate the feedback, you guys. Anything you can tell me, tell me like specifically what's helpful and what isn't, because I feel like everyone says kind of the same thing because we all have the same message. It's the cues that matter, right? Like I tell you to go focus on body fat percentage because this is out of my wheelhouse. I'm not a strength specialist. I'm not. There are so many personal trainers out there that are great. But if I said to you, if you really want to lose weight, you need to hire a personal trainer, that's $60 an hour. And you really need, if we're going to train for metabolic change to really put on muscle, then you've got to be working with that trainer no less than 3 days a week. Or at least working with the trainer 1 day a week and then repeating whatever he said to do the next 2 times. So that's a big commitment. And we're going to talk about what sort of it looks like. But the commitment to strength and muscle development is so egregiously large that most people just won't do it. I'd rather run. And hey, I'd rather run too. You think I like 8 hours of Pilates a week? Did you hear me talk about Pilates when Alex Lanton made me start that shit back in 2016? It's not about liking the medicine. It's about like, okay, you know what? I have a diagnosis. I have a solution. No one gives a shit if you like the solution. Take the solution. Because the worst thing in the world is to have no clear path forward. That is scary. When one expert is like, I don't know what to do, and passes you to another one who says, I don't know what to do, and passes you to somewhere else, that is the cycle of what the fuck. And if you don't have to, if you're not in the cycle of what the fuck, you just don't like the medicine, you're spoiled. Look elsewhere. You know how many people would love to be in your shoes and just not like the medicine their way? Like, I would love to have something to take. So that's one of the few times I get on my high horse. Like, but, oh, that just doesn't taste good. I don't give a shit. I don't let my kids talk to me that way. I'm not going to let my clients talk to me that way. Like, this is the meal. You don't have to eat the meal. You can go to bed hungry. Their BATNA is carrots. BATNA is the best alternative to a negotiating agreement. It's one of the first things you learn in a negotiations class in business school. And I have BATNAs for everything in my world. BATNA is like, you know, okay, you don't want the meal that I just made? You can have carrots. Carrots are your BATNA. There's your carrots. What's it going to be? Oh, you want this? That's what I thought. And if you can sort of talk to yourself in those same terms, because I know you're all awesome moms, and I know that you talk to your kids that same way. You might not enjoy every second of it, but you're going to like the outcome. You don't have to like all of the supports that make things happen. God knows I like the stuff in my car. It's not my favorite run stuff. It's not what I choose. If I had everything at my disposal, I wouldn't choose any of that. But you know what? On the day comes that I don't have warm enough running shoes, I'm grateful. I don't ask myself, oh, you know, I don't really like these socks. I'm so fucking grateful for that spare pair of socks in my car. I'm so fucking grateful for that long sleeve shirt. I don't like, this shirt is just kind of, it's a little tight right here. Who gives a shit? I'm still able to run. I have what I need. Having what you need and what you want, you know, sometimes when I shop, I'm like, there's a fine line between need and want. I can talk myself into needing something. But you know what? If you need something, no one gives a shit if it's what you want, if it plugs your need. And you've got to kind of take that utilitarian approach to getting your workouts done if this is your goal. Because there's a whole litany of things in this world that are going to stand in your way. So you can't be choosy. Oh, sorry, I thought I saw your comment. All right, so there's that. Here we get down to it. So the 2 components of weight loss. One, we're going to really have to up your muscle. So I've said that over here. We've got to up your muscle and lose your fat. So we're going to have to truly build muscle. And you're going to have to eat. You're going to have your hormones under control with the glycemic type of eating, aka the Ellie plan eating, right? The 2 fistfuls of veggies and making sure, because if you're not eating enough protein, everything that you do is going to go in the garbage, right? Just ask Julie. So no one has to eat. You will never have to eat as much protein as Julie has to eat right now, right? So don't bitch about it. So we're going to have to do no less than 45 minutes of strength 3 times a week. This is usually presented as 3 strength sessions per week. We need no less than 30 minutes per day of cardio. Now, this might run somewhat counter to what you find online if you Google it. Obviously, I'm a run coach. I'm telling you to run more. And that 30 minutes always has to be easy effort. So the people that are like, I want to do speed work because I need to build muscle and lose weight. I'm like, you're an idiot. That is literally not what speed work is for. Congratulations. You found a new way to piss me off. Love it. And I don't think I anger that easily, but there are a few things that one pushes my buttons, like any justification for that, the fancy workouts that you want to do. I'm like, those take time. I'm not even there yet. So what makes you think you're going to get there? Anyway, I digress. So the pattern ideally would look of what the American Heart Association recommends isn't that different than what I recommend. And there's a reason. Remember, I grew up in a cardio rehab clinic. So let's say your strength days are Monday, Wednesday, Saturday. Okay? Sorry. It's going to be confusing. This is the bare minimum. If you want to do more, you add walks. You don't run more, okay? We need to have your body in this low fat burning zone. And I know before you come at me with the fat burning zone is a myth, it isn't a myth. It's a cue that has been misused, abused, and thrown around. It doesn't mean when I say the fat, it's not about literally burning zone. It's about making sure that you're in motion and that your body is using excess, it's actually burning calories if we have to go the calorie route. So these strength sessions are going to be increasing your muscle mass, especially if you're eating to go around it. The cardio is going to be strengthening your heart, toning your muscles, which is different from strengthening. Strengthening increases your power output, toning increases your endurance. So this is going to be, so step one, the strength, and I could have a whole conversation about power, but that's not where we're going today. And then all of this, and by the way, every single bit of this is under 140, no questions asked. Don't do zone tests because what we care about is the ventilatory threshold. I've never thrown that phrase around, and it's one of the reasons I alluded to in the original podcast from April 2016 and Train Like a Mother. One of the reasons why zones go out the window is that, the aerobic threshold, the anaerobic threshold is very different from person to person, what your max heart rate could be. But the one that's more like a ceiling and doesn't change that much from person to person, that's the ventilatory threshold. And no one talks about it because it's not sexy. And 140 is safely underneath the ventilatory threshold for just about anyone under the age of 55. And that's why my easy efforts are absurdly low. But it also keeps me from having to do math in these big group programs and spending all of my excess time and all my office hours talking to people about why they're not an exception and why they're not a special snowflake. By having one rule that eliminates that, I can actually get better results from people. And that, I get that's not what most coaches do. They'll give you math to go, spin off on your own somewhere, and that's fine. That's a choice. That's because this whole back and forth about, I think I'm an exception is really taxing, and no one wants to have it. And you don't want to pay for our time on the phone. So this is my cue of getting rid of it. And I say that gently because I'm not about criticizing other coaches. It's not that I disagree with them or their approach. All of us fundamentally say the same thing. Where we differ is in the conversations we're willing to have. They would rather talk about the running. I'd rather talk about you. For example, it's easier to talk about the running. I don't like easy conversations or small talk, never have. So, this is not to say that any other coach that presents things differently, I disagree with them where I think that they're wrong. I'm definitely harsher than they are. I want your easy runs that much slower, but ask anyone that's ever worked with me one-on-one, your hard runs are way harder than anything you've ever seen before. And it's a different type of hard. So you're so grateful for those easy runs when they come around. But anyway, I digress. So here, strength is the power, and then if you talk to a lifter, they talk about their cardio. Again, it's a different perspective on the same body. So if Martini Monsters did one of my desk circuit series, she did Ass Fire a few weeks ago, and she was like, my heart rate's at 174, it's been so long since I did cardio. And I'm like, yeah, I've taken a weight training, muscle building exercise, and because it gets your heart rate so high and you have to do it for a while, it does serve two purposes. It's a little extra endurance, I just don't talk about it. And it is effectively a cardio workout that kind of revs your metabolism several times throughout the day. That's one of the reasons why I have you do the desk series throughout the day. It's preferable to doing like 4 sets, which is not to say 4 sets at the same time at the end of the day is bad, and I've been doing it wrong, and don't spin out to know what I'm fucking saying. What I'm saying is it's preferable to like boost your metabolism several times throughout the day if we're in a muscle building period. And I have several athletes who are. So this type of cardio is separate. This cardio that's running or walking, that is motion, that is taxing your muscles and taxing your joints. And that, because we're not getting into, we're doing it purely by tapping into your body, into the oxygen available in your blood and the protein and your body's fat stores. We're not using glycogen because we're doing this at such low, easy efforts. Right? We don't want to use glycogen because when we do, and glycogen happens over 160. That, if you've ever heard me say, every minute you spend over 160 better be worth it because the clock's ticking, that's what I mean. You have a finite, limited amount of glycogen in your body, and there's nothing we can do to make your glycogen tanks bigger. That's a biological function. It's like, I would like to train my head to be larger. I'm like, that. I don't know how to do that. I understand why you'd want to do that, but I don't know how to do that. I don't think it's possible. Every minute you spend over 160, you are definitely burning sugar. So it better be worth it when you get there, okay? Because when you're burning sugar, your body's also producing cortisol, and past 180, you're producing adrenaline to keep going. And that's going to throw off the glycemic index. And that's why people that I'm like, you're overtrained and undernourished and you're hungry all the time and you're eating offsets the weight loss. It's because you're working out too much, you're working out too hard. That's where that comes from, right? So we need to keep, this is going to get your heart rate up these 3 sessions each week. And then this on top of it is teaching your body to burn fat and forcing it to do it while strengthening your heart in a very safe way. And we're keeping, you might, if done correctly, your entire week, your heart rate might get over 160 in totality for 1 hour. And that's if you took all the strength sessions and added them up. So this is not like my weight loss plan. This is very high level, like determining where to start and what to do. Like I would advise finding a personal trainer, or at least having a couple of sessions with a personal trainer to identify your most immediate weak points. All of my strength series are designed to prevent injury, targeting your glute med, making sure your ankles are strong enough so that they're not rolling, etc., to prepare for an event. But to prepare for weight loss, that's hella strength. That is hella strength. That is, it could be powerlifting classes, it could be CrossFit, it could be Orange Theory. Orange Theory, though, is a workout. That's separate. I'm not beating up on Orange Theory. I'm just saying it is very hard, and it's a time suck, right? So it's hard to combine that with squeezing this on top of it. Plus, when you look at this day, right, this is 45 minutes of strength and 30 minutes of running. 75 minutes on a Monday. That's a lot of time. And a lot of people don't want to go there right off the bat, and I get that too. So we would ease into that as best we can. But that is kind of where a moderately not unfit person would start, and if all of this was walked, that would be okay. Last but not least, this 60-minute portion is probably longer, but if you're watching this, you're probably an endurance athlete, and we need to keep that pattern in the habit, like I said earlier, and just accepting that Saturday is going to be the long run, the longest run of the week. It is very good to keep that capped at 60 minutes. Now, the next question is, but MK, you said, because I contradict myself so frequently. You said that you shouldn't be below 95 minutes. You shouldn't be below 95 minutes if you're in a maintenance phase in between race cycles and you don't want to lose the fitness that you gained in a training cycle. you're going to lose endurance fitness in this cycle, but you're going to gain strength. You're going to lose weight. This is why I say you can't train and lose weight at the same time. They are literally two different patterns. You are not going to maintain your endurance fitness. You're not going to come out of this and necessarily crush your marathon because you've lost weight. You're going to come out of this weight once you kind of hit your weight loss goals, your body fat composition is where it needs to be, and you feel good, and you're like, I want to get out of weight loss mode and get back into training mode. You're not at square one, but we're a little bit more than 12 weeks away from a full. Does that make sense? So there are always trade-offs when you're switching modes. And this is what weight loss mode, generally speaking, would look like from a very high level. And that's, you know what, I'm just going to stop there because I've been talking now for an hour. Any questions? If I had to break always do whatever it is you're training for. So if you're a runner, I would do the run first. Always, always, always. Whenever you can do the run first, do the run first. Because the crucial adaptations that we talk about that are so important, that are so fuzzy and hard to identify, but really, really matter. This is why we talk about the principle of specificity. You can't swim to train for a marathon. Like, if you can get really fit through swimming and then maybe fake a half, but you're going to feel it the next day. Like, it's not the way. You're cruising on a fitness base. I'll stop there. All I'm trying to say is if you are a runner or you identify as a runner, then you do the run first and then do the strength always, because we want to maintain the crucial adaptations in your feet. Doesn't mean it's bad to do the strength first. Just means it's optimal in the long run if we can make a habit of doing the run first. Doesn't mean you failed if you make an attempt and don't nail it every single time. More questions? Cool. I'm going to go have another glass of wine since I'm not running in the morning. Yay! I'm going to Pilates and my mom's in town, and I'm going to, you know what, if Shiloh crawls in bed, I'm going to snuggle some more because I'm not fit enough to really enjoy a run. So I'm not going to be pushing myself. I'm not in a training cycle. I'm not going to be pushing myself out of bed. I'll leave you with this visual right here. Close up. This right now is in the hands. No need to take a screenshot of it. This is in the hands of a very, very, very competent and very good-looking designer. And on Friday, when I do the goal-setting 2019 look-ahead session on the Coach MK Facebook page, we're going to talk through my previous 4-year history to give you context, because when we look back, objects in the rear view mirror may appear closer than they are and prettier. It's almost like beer goggles. We just sort of lie. It's hard to remember where we truly were in the beginning of 2018 or the beginning of 2017 as compared to 16 as compared to 15. And because, like, fuck, how is Christmas already over this year? I don't even know. It feels like I've been pregnant for longer than an elephant. But I digress. I'm going to make a pretty picture and put things at my past 4 years in context and hopefully guide a conversation about how you should be looking at and not judging yourself, but evaluating where you are. Because as smart as you ladies are, a lot of you are way smarter than I am and way more educated. But that doesn't mean the lens through which you view yourself is more accurate. The analysis you perform of yourself would hold water in any other setting. That your logic is good or that you're being fair. And most of you, some of the smartest women I know, hold themselves up to, I mean, they just, it's abuse. It's self-abuse. It's not even an appropriate critique. It is downright evil, the way they talk to themselves and look at themselves and judge themselves. And I want to make sure we're going to start by talking about me, and then we're going to take, and that's not even narcissism, that's just like honesty, right? It's easy for me to forget. It feels like the Philadelphia Marathon was yesterday, but like that was 2 flipping years ago, y'all. 2 years. And I spent most of the year in between in bed. Whoa. That changes things. So we're going to start by talking about me before we can really talk about you. and then we're gonna have that framework to evaluate what my progress has actually been and where my wins lie. And then we're gonna use that to formulate a conversation about you. And looking ahead to 2019, I'm not gonna tell you what to want, but I'm gonna make sure that the analysis you use to evaluate yourself is truly appropriate, kind, and supportive, because we have this culture of tough love, which is really abuse framed as something else, and that's not really what tough love is. And I bristle when people say that I dole it out, because I'm just like, no, I might tell you what you don't want to hear, but it's not that I take pleasure in saying it. I don't like being tough on people. I really don't, unless I'm shouting down that voice in the back of your head that says that you suck. I will shout that voice down all damn day. If I'm having to, if we're locked in a battle of the wills and I need you to stand down and remember that you've paid me to do a job, and you need to let your ego step aside and let me do that job, I will do that. I don't like it, but I'll do it. I can lock horns with the best of them. I didn't get to Wall Street and in Wharton and all the places that I've been in my life from a farm in Tennessee by being the prettiest girl in the room. I can be a barracuda too. I just don't want to be. And in this context, I don't think it's ever helpful. So we're going to talk about me and draw the conclusions we need to have a good conversation about you. And I look forward to that on Friday. I would advise you to try to make it. It's going to be, and if you can make it, do let me know, because I'm preparing visuals and I kind of want to know who my audience is and what you guys want to see to facilitate that discussion. So if you can go to my it's facebook.com/CoachedandLoved. That's the Coach and K page. You'll see the event, RSVP. Let me know you're coming, and I look forward to having some fun. It's going to be 4 p.m. Mountain Time on this coming Friday, and just looking forward to coaching and loving you with what little time I have left with AMR. Yay! Love you guys. I hope this was helpful. I know, again, it's not the concrete do this and everyone wants concrete instructions, but it's the best I can do, talking in very high level theoreticals with people that haven't paid me to write the best plan for them, because it's going to be a little different for everyone. What kind of strength I have you do, it's going to depend on what's available to you, what's around. Like, we need to work the big muscle groups, but we can't ignore the small ones, and form really matters. It is totally possible to go in a gym by yourself and not do anything right and come out being like, that was useless. All you did was hurt your back, which is why I think the trainer is so appropriate, or having some sort of a guide. But I'm going to be working on, I'm noodling some things in 2019 that would be good virtual options where we could do this together. If you would be interested in that anyway, do show up to the webinar and let me know, or not the webinar, sorry, to the Facebook event and let me know, and put that feedback in the Facebook event page so I know how to guide that discussion. I know what to be thinking about. Anyway, that's it. I'm going to have a lot of time to think about business going forward in the next few months when I'm not actively coaching people and sitting around and waiting for others to do their job so we can get my son what he needs. So in that interim, I'm looking forward to all the feedback. What do you want to see? What do you want to do? What would interest you? And what would it take to make a larger group program successful someday when I'm able to launch that? So all things to think about. For now, you are coached and you are loved and you're winning at life, and I got to go make sure my family feels the same way. Thank you very much for being here. Yay. Awesome. Yeah, I'm pretty sure, don't hold me to it, I think I made it 4 p.m. Mountain Time, but if you go to the Coach and Love page, you'll find the event and see. All right. See you guys tomorrow.